Welcome to the Sanity podcast by the New York Sun. My name is A.R. Hoffman, and every week, along with my co-host Rebecca Sugar, we speak to the people that you want to hear from.
We're here today with Aviv Shapira, CEO and co-founder of Xtend, a global leader in the development of AI-assisted tactical unmanned aerial systems for military use. The company provides remotely operated multi-robot systems designed to enhance combat effectiveness and operator safety. Its platforms support various modular payloads and integration with third-party software, which is a sentence you're going to have to explain to me what that means later.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's a bit technical.
The systems offer intuitive control for complex missions and adaptability in dynamic combat environments, which is a sentence that actually scares me. So we're going to talk about that one later, too. Aviv was trained as an aerospace engineer and born, I think, as an entrepreneur. He previously co-founded Replay Technologies, a sports tech firm, which was acquired by Intel in 2016. And importantly, he earned 2 Emmy Awards for its groundbreaking 3D video rendering. I was hoping they'd be in the background, but maybe you could show them to us later.
Yeah, later on, yeah.
Aviv, I just want to start with Xtend. I think a lot of people understand that drones have been used in military operations for some time in this country. Maybe the first time I sort of thought about them in that context was under the Obama administration, and that administration used drones to very lethal effect around the world. Certainly the Ukraine war has raised the idea of drones being used in the military to a new level of consciousness here. Can you just tell us a bit about Xtend's core mission, the use cases for your technologies, and what's different now, certainly in the last few years with AI and all the other advancements in technologies? We're not just talking about, little robots flying around, dropping a little bomb. We're talking about a very different kind of warfare. So can you just take us through what you do and the technological sort of innovation that Xtend has offered to the space?
Of course, great to be here, and thank you for hosting us and me. I would say that drones started as a hobby technology. People still using drones, but initially they were only used by people just to take videos and capture their kids or taking views of nature. And even if you look at, I'm going all the way to the end of the question. If you look at Ukraine today, where you see race drones, what we call FPV drones, actually, like a $500 drone, destroying almost $1 billion of equipment every day. These are amateur drones. These are drones that are used for race drones, for the world of racing. So it all came from the hobby world. So I guess it's not that hard to actually build a drone and fly it around. This is why you can see 1,000 companies out there. This is why it's very easy for any 13-year-old kid to buy a kit and build his own drone. But when it comes to software of actually controlling that drone in complex environments, this is where we come in. So I would say that one of the biggest problems in robotics and drones today in the world is the ability to actually learn how to fly them in complex environments. One of the first things we did in Xtend is actually create a paradigm shift of how drones are being controlled. I'm sure people watching this have flown drones before. You have like normal sticks control where you tell the drone, turn left, turn right, go up, and so on. This is not how we operate. It requires a certain amount of skill sets that most people don't really have. So the first thing we did is actually change that mode of operation by introducing tasks. So the only thing you have to do is tell the drone, what does it need to do? Go through that window, look for a survivor in a building, pick something, throw something, look for something in this XYZ coordinate. And that allowed basically anyone to control a drone and from anywhere in the world, which was one of the most important things that actually scaled this industry. So when we started, we were actually a gaming company. Xtend started by actually allowing anyone to fly a race drone 100 miles per hour with virtual reality head glasses in like a circular race course. But it was very, 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 very hard. I mean, most people can't really do it. And that's the first thing we solved. Taking that technology into the world of defense and today's security changed so many things for Israel, for the world, I would say. We're a global company today. Imagine putting VR on your heads, like a normal VR headset, and controlling like 50 drones on the other side of the world. It sounds a bit science fiction, but this is what we do.
That sounds, as I alluded to before.
You're worried, Rebecca.
I'm excited about it if it's in good hands, if that VR headset is on, your head or Ari's head, and I'm very worried about it being on the wrong person's head.
Well, surely are there security issues that come with kind of securing that network connection or securing the relationship between the software and the hardware, or what are kind of some of the things you think about?
So yes, everything runs on encrypted data links, very similar to your iPhone, or in the past. I don't know if you remember, if you're as old as me, 15 years ago when you used your phone, it wasn't encrypted. People can actually sometimes hear each other talk. Today, drones are using encrypted data. It's almost impossible to actually control someone else's drone, unless you're like the CIA or something. So it's fine. Don't worry about that. What we should be worried about is that people can very easily just build their own drones and start using it for the wrong reasons. That's very easy to do. And I think we've seen it before, 6 months ago in New Jersey, right? I mean, we've seen people flying drones around airports, and you can see it today in Ukraine, in the Russia war, obviously in Israel. Actually, when the war between Israel and Hamas started, they used drones to actually kill our eyes and ears on the borders. So that we never thought they had this capability, but how easy it is to build a drone that basically drops a bomb on a very expensive camera. So you are right. Today we are in a space where it is potentially dangerous, but we're working very, very hard, us and other companies, to actually mitigate that risk.
And how do you think about that as a kind of a private company that works with governments, right, and has government contracts? I mean, do you think the future of this industry is private? Is it government? Is it some kind of hybrid between the two?
So most of our customers are government customers. They dictate what's happening. But more than that, they actually control also where can we sell this technology to. In the US, there's an organization called ITAR, and they basically tell a company like Xtend, you can sell this technology to, I don't know, Italy or Germany, or probably not to, to China or to Russia or other countries like that. So the government does control your go-to-market strategy, and I would say that we are very much regulated with what we can do and what we can't do.
Can you talk about, I remember Elon Musk a while ago sort of saying something to the effect of how the American military was sort of budgeting for these, piloted aircraft and F-35s, and how it was a terrible idea because everything is moving towards drones. And I think Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has sort of taken up that sort of attitude and is, really focusing more in this space. What is that going to mean for the American military? Let's just stick to the Americans. Maybe you could speak to others. What's the military going to look like in a year or 5 years? Are we not going to have fighter pilots anymore? Are tanks going to be obsolete? What is this technology going to do to the whole space?
Great question. I would say, first of all, people like Elon Musk that say exactly what they think. This is what the industry needs. I think, when pilots are making decisions for companies building aircrafts, they make decisions in a certain way in how they grew up as pilots. So they think that the future of manned aircraft is what the army needs. I actually agree with Elon Musk and Pete Hegseth, because it doesn't make a lot of sense for a machine to carry like 100 pound, 120 pound pilot, and worry about the G's, the accelerations, the temperature, the fact that they need to go to the restrooms after like 8 hours. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You can actually pilot an F-35 from remote. You don't have to be there. There's nothing you need to do on board that you can't do outside. Again, assuming you have data links, communication. And even if you don't, AI is very, very strong today. I'd have to talk about that later. But AI can actually replace humans in many, many decisions they have to make along the mission. So the future of warfare is built with robots and drones, which is a subset of robots. I would say at the end of the day, robots and drones will de-risk like 99% of the mission, but you would still need a human on the ground, because you still need to capture someone. Unfortunately for Israel, we have hostages inside buildings in Gaza, right? So you have to go and get them. That's not something a drone or a robot will do. 20 years from today, maybe humanoids will do this. There's a lot of companies going for humanoid robotic technologies. I truly believe in that. But what makes Xtend special in that way is that we are taking robots and drones like all the way to autonomy, like very, very far, but we still keep humans in the loop to make decisions. So that means I can control now, like 20 drones to do complex missions, but I would still tell them what is the mission. They're not going to decide what they need to do. They would only decide how to do it. So for example, if I have a building with potential bad actor, I would tell the drone, break into this building, look for a threat, look for a human who looks dangerous. That's like a mission I would give the drone. I'm not going to let the drone decide what to do, if it needs to engage or not, and so on. So that's that balance between humans and machines that we are basically dealing with.
Feels like the impact then to the military budgets of countries, the defense budget, which here gobbles up a huge amount of our annual budget, could really significantly be reduced by this kind of technology. Is that right?
Yes, but on the other side, it's increasing because of let's call it global threats. So the US is trying to make like the world in peace, trying to protect things like Taiwan. Israel has more and more threats all the time. You suddenly see India, with Pakistan. So it does feel like something is happening, unfortunately, in the world. So yes, you're right that we can reduce maybe very expensive aircrafts like an F-35, and there will be less of them in the future. But you would still need some kind of aircraft flying and giving like intelligence and deploying weapons. I wouldn't say that removing the human from the aircraft makes it cheaper. It doesn't. It just makes it better and more operational.
And that ability of the drone to sort of problem solve or to figure out a task, I mean, that strikes me as remarkable. And is that an AI sort of feature? I mean, the ability to say to a drone, "Here's your mission. Figure out how to get it done." I mean, is that sort of at the cutting edge of where the technology is, or what is kind of like the code for that?
So exactly, yeah. AI, we used to call it machine learning. We used to call it neural networks. Today, there's a cooler phrase just saying we use AI. You start small. Like 5 years ago, we had like, just basic recognition of targets. So you would fly the drone as a human, and the drone would tell you, I see something potential you need to look at, like, a car that maybe is a suspicious target. Today, it's much more advanced than that because you actually train the system to do things. You don't need to pilot the system anymore. It knows how to get to places. It actually knows, in our case, how to actually break into buildings. We've taught the system to do different types of, we call it interactions with the environment, breaking a window, breaking a door. Then, what do you do when you get inside a building? You have to look for a person. That used to be a very hard task. Today, it's much easier. There's so many like different AI algorithms running in parallel. It sounds a bit science fiction, but with the advancement in AI and the advancement in computations and GPUs, it's now possible.
Aviv, there are obviously countries like China or Iran have their own drone technology systems that they use. I'm just sort of thinking about, is there a whole industry now that would come up, or are you involved in defending against enemy drones? And what does that entail? And how do you really effectively defend against a swarm of 20 different AI-powered drones coming at you?
So when we started our gaming company, like 5 years ago, Israel had a very, very strange threat. So what Hamas did, they actually took balloons, helium balloons. Imagine like you take like 5 helium balloons, and you tie a firecracker to these balloons, and you send it with the wind towards Israel. That's like a very, very simple but creative terrorist attack. They landed in a field and basically did a lot of they burned fields. Israel had no way of intercepting balloons. It wasn't even, no one ever thought about that crazy terrorist act. And what we did is we actually created these swarm of drones that we used to be in gaming, and we actually intercepted balloons. I never imagined that I would do something like that. But this is that was the first thing we did, and that was our transition from gaming to the world of defense.
Sorry, just explain that for 1 second. What did they do? Did your drones just pop the balloons? What did they do? They shot them out of the sky.
They actually just popped them out of the sky. Yeah, they did. Imagine doing that with normal sticks control, like flying 100 miles per hour, trying to hit the balloon. It doesn't make sense. What we did is we basically told the drone, intercept that balloon. Basically, we created this mouse-like interface. Imagine like moving a mouse in your hand, and you pointed the balloon and you intercepted. That was the beginning of what we call today counter UAS, which is a very big industry, counter unmanned aerial systems. Just in the last war in Israel, we had, I think, like 500 drones coming towards Israel with bombs. And what we found out in the last 2 years is sometimes they fly without communication. So all the traditional counter UAS measures like cyber spoofing, jamming, didn't work. We thought that you just jam the communication, the frequency, and they fall out of the sky. That wasn't the case anymore. You now have to physically hit them. So we are one of these companies that actually we have different types of it's like layers of solutions to according to the different threats. So for example, with quadcopters, like imagine like DJI drones, we have a drone that actually shoots a net and they fall out of the sky. With more larger aircrafts, we have something a bit faster. I'm trying to calculate in my head kilometers to miles per hour. Imagine like 350 miles per hour, very fast, jet engine, jet propulsion, and it actually comes behind these enemy targets and intercepts them. So this is innovation in the hands of entrepreneurs like me that have to actually survive these crazy times.
Is it sort of like a complement to the Iron Dome system? Or, I'm sort of curious, we built Iron Dome to protect against missiles coming in, and you're describing a whole system of drones protecting against drones coming in.
Or like the next generation.
Yeah. Is this the next gen?
It's not the next generation. It actually, so an Iron Drone missile is very, very expensive. It's a missile. It costs hundreds of thousands. I don't know exactly the price. But our interceptors are in the tens of thousands. They're like $50,000. They're very cheap because you don't need a jet engine. You don't need like a cooling system and a satellite navigation system. It's very, very simple, relatively simple. And it's imagine like taking a hobby grade technology, making it a military standard, and using it for a new threat. So this is more or less what we did.
I'm really intrigued by this hobby origins. I mean, I remember having building a rocket launcher like in summer camp and stuff, or like a model airplane, or like all these kinds of things.
Or just Atari. I don't know, the joystick.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about liability and privacy? These are two questions I have. A, if your drone, you tell it to go and hit X target, and X target happens to be the wrong target or a civilian. Who's liable actually for that? And then the privacy issue. You're collecting a lot of data on all these flights, and they're not just in the skies, right? They're on the ground and in the oceans, and so there's a lot of data being collected. Who owns that data, and do you get it? And do you have to erase it? I hope so. And just liability and privacy.
In government contracts, it's easy. You're not liable because it's you sell to the government. They don't want you to be liable, and you don't want to be liable. It's a win-win situation. Yeah, and when it comes to privacy, we don't get the data. We don't. I wish we could, by the way, for training our AI networks, because the real world is different than where we practice. But we have no data. I would say that in some cases they do send us like, listen, this is what happened, and this is the black box, like all the parameters, and you actually have to help them understand what happened and analyze it so next time you win. But in general, we have no data.
Let me ask you about your relationship kind of with governments generally. I mean, one is there, are you thinking long term about, would a government kind of acquire your company? How do you, I'm sure governments are notoriously secretive. I mean, how do they work with you around, this technology? Obviously, I'm just sort of interested by that, like private public relationship, and what are the kind of rules of the road generally speaking?
I would say it took us, a few good months to actually become a government vendor. You have to go through a lot of screening process in order to become, especially in the US market. What we found out is that in order to actually do this effectively, we've opened an Xtend, a local company in every one of the countries that we're interested in. So we have now a company in Singapore, Israel, and the US, and they work independently. They have their own nationals. So in the US, everyone is American national. They have their own clearance levels. And they are basically a vendor of the U.S. government. As an Israeli, so I'm the CEO of the mother company. I can tell them I'm not exposed to the data they have. I'm not able to tell them exactly what to do. I am providing them with the best technology we have, so they can provide their own customers. But it's pretty standard, very, very standard. I'm just another vendor of the U.S. government.
Aviv, I think your technology has proven to save lives, and I think that I've heard you say that really is your number one goal: safety and saving lives. And we all can sort of optimistically see all the positive outcomes of the current technology and even technology that we haven't even imagined yet. Maybe you haven't imagined yet. But can you just be a little pessimistic for a minute, or just not even pessimistic, but just share with us, what do you worry about? What could a bad scenario look like if the whole world, becomes expert in these AI non-human powered drones? What would worry you about that reality, if anything at all?
So first of all, yes, I to beginning of your question, I had the power and the privilege to save lives. As an entrepreneur, this is my fourth startup. My first three companies, they were very nice. I sold one company to Intel, but this is the first time I actually created technology that saved lives. I had people coming out of Gaza or Lebanon, just saying, literally, you saved me and my team. It fills you with so much energy to just continue doing what you're doing. A lot of companies in the world don't get that privilege in defense. In defense, it's why one of the reasons it's a hard market is because you created technology, and in 99% of the cases, it's never going to be used. Think about companies like, everyone talks about Unreal and Shield AI and Skydio. A lot of amazing companies. Most likely, their technology is never going to be used. So they're raising billions of dollars. They're getting so many government funding, and for good reasons. The technology is not going to be used because the U.S. hopefully doesn't go to war anytime soon. Unfortunately for us in Israel, this is the third war that I've been in. This is the largest war, obviously. We fought in Gaza, Lebanon, Ukraine, Yemen, Iran, Syria. it's not that cool, it's good for business. It's not good for my kids. Anyway, being pessimistic. So that's one word of pessimistic, right? I would say that two things I worry about. One is that AI is mostly governed by energy. Okay, how much power do you have to actually run these AI algorithms? That means that countries which are not necessarily friendly can now be more AI capable. And if AI is the future, what does that mean? This is what worries me. If AI can create AI software, and countries which are not friendly with the US and Israel are now in possession of much more power, then they have an advantage over us. This is one thing that worries me. Yeah, definitely.
Let me ask you, in terms of kind of where Rebecca started, when we think of the profile of drone warfare, I think a lot of us think about the two wars that are happening right now, and that's the Ukraine war, Russia-Ukraine, and the war in Gaza. There are other wars, but the two big ones. How do you think those wars have seen in specific ways, like the evolution of drone warfare? Like, is there a specific thing in each war that you feel like, or a specific use case or scenario that has advanced, or is it just kind of like these are the next chapters? Where have these wars kind of like specifically put the industry?
Okay, well, so Ukraine was first. Let's start with that. We've learned. By the way, we are working with Ukraine for the past 3 years, maybe even a bit more. What we've learned there is that drones used to do only ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, just videos and pictures, and they became the new weapon. They're very cheap. They can go very far, like 20, 30, 40 kilometers. They're now becoming more stealth. They can use AI, and a $500 drone can destroy a tank or an aircraft or a building, whatever. So this is like number one. We've learned that drones are the new weapon of war, the new ways of fighting war. In Israel, I would say exactly the opposite, because the Gaza war is a very urban war. You go like a mile ahead, like even half a mile ahead. That's it. This is like your next step. This is how you move forward, and it's filled with houses. So what we've learned, and this is like today, you never go into a house without a drone. You never open a door without using an Xtend drone to open the door for you. It's not possible. No soldier would take that as extra risk. And this is the new ConOps. We can't imagine what happened before. Canine dogs. Everyone knows no one needs canine dogs anymore. It's like history. And I would say, because I have an Israel company and a US company, the US government is not there yet. It's trying to learn what's happening in Gaza and Ukraine. And it takes like a year, 2 years to learn. And then sometimes government changes, people change positions. And then you start issuing tenders. And then you wait 2 more years. And then, so it takes you about 5 years to actually get a technology which is relevant. So this is why Pete Hegseth has released the Big Beautiful Bill, the Reconciliation Bill, which calls for like $150 billion for drones. We are like there. We are one of these companies that are actually helping the US government to get ahead of the game there. Hopefully it would start materializing soon. So we would start seeing very short sales cycles and the US government getting up to speed to where it needs to be.
Why are you guys so successful? Meaning, why are you able to like quickly create these drones at the cutting edge? I mean, is it a question of human talent? Is it a manufacturing sort of like skill? It's sort of incredible, right? Your company seems like, at the very forefront, ahead of where the governments are. Maybe that's par for the course in terms of sort of going back to this private-public partnership.
Or maybe, Aviv, I'm going to add to that question.
Yeah.
It's in the same vein. I think what you just sort of described is like you're learning on the ground. your friends, your colleagues, your countrymen are going into a war, and their family, and they are returning information to you about problems that need solving. And you, as a tech company, are probably nimble enough to sort of solve for those problems, hopefully very quickly, much more rapidly than waiting for tenders. So is that part of the answer to Ari's question?
Yeah. So before the war, we were working, as you can imagine, with the government, with our clients. You get an RFI, request for information, then request for proposal, you get a tender, 2 years until you get a contract. When the war started, we were the first drones to actually try and go into Gaza. We failed for so many reasons. One, there was no GPS, then the communication wasn't good enough. So many problems, flying inside tunnels, So, what happened? Something that you would expect. The relationship between us and the government changed. We were suddenly on the same team. Okay, what does that mean? So in Israel, we started on Sunday. Every Sunday morning, IDF representatives would come to the office and they would plan what does Xtend do in the next week. So we became this government company, exactly like you said before. This relationship, for unfortunate reasons, because we are in the middle of the war, made our technology very, very, very operational. While a lot of companies are training in the deserts in the US, we are fighting in a war, then they come back and they're saying, listen, this didn't work. We have to do something else. We have to go farther, faster. We have to kill radio communication and go to fiber. We have to add more payload. We have to add lasers on the drone. So many things happened because we had to survive. And that made us who we are. Successful is one way to put it. It has its price. I can tell you that I was under a very large program in the US market, without names, but it's a SOCOM contract. And I told my end users, listen, I'm sorry, but I'm asking you, can I pull all of my inventory out of the US government, out of all the end users, thousands of systems, and give them to IDF? And we had to go all the way up to like a 4-star general in the US, and they agreed. They said, yeah, of course. And they got something in return. They got like a much, much more operational system in their hand now.
Yeah. Aviv, I just want to end by asking you to tell us a little bit about the war right now. You live in Israel, and you're not just a CEO, but you're a citizen, and it's impacted you. And I guess your position has put you in a unique position, right, to see the inner workings of the war. But just as an Israeli living there, just give us your take on what's happening.
What does it feel like?
Yeah, what does it feel like?
So yesterday I put Dani is my youngest girl. She's 8. She's in 3rd grade. I put her in school. And then, boom, there's a siren. There's a Yemen missile coming to Israel. What do? You're in the middle of the street. Your daughter is, she's trained. She knows exactly what to do, but still, so that's our reality. And, you run with your 8-year-old daughter trying to look for shelter. But we actually, unfortunately, we got used to it. On I think the 1st of October or the 1st of April. The 1st of April, we had 300 missiles coming to Israel, and they were cruise missiles. So it took them, I think, like 4 hours to get here. I put my same Dani. I put her to bed. I kissed her goodnight, knowing there are 300 missiles coming to Israel. Imagine how that feels like. How can you read her a book when you know there are 300 missiles like flying right now? And at 2 a.m., we they came and we dealt with it. We just had to deal with it. So that's one part of it. The second part is reserve. So about 30% of my company are in reserve. I mean, today less, but in the middle of the war, they take you in. Sometimes they take I think all of my computer vision department was in reserve. All of my salespeople were in reserve. How can you run a company? And you don't want to replace people. These are people, serving the country, so you can't replace them but you're still burning money. You're a startup. So these are some of the challenges you have to deal with. But Xtend did its reserve by serving IDF, being a partner of IDF, and what we got in return is operational experience. One of the reasons I'm coming to the US next week is to tell about my experiences, to see with the government, hopefully with Pete Hegseth himself, to tell him about everything we learned, because we are still a US company.
Mm-hmm. Right. Wear your jacket, and good luck. And
yeah,
thank
I'm
you.
not gonna.
Yeah, don't Zelensky President Trump.
And
as
I'm
we
not gonna
warned
come
you.
with my Emmy as well.
Yeah. Thank you
All right,
so much
Aviv
for being
Shapira,
here.
thank you for joining us.
Thank you as well.